Your teen requested a ride, but this time not from you. It's through their Uber teen account. You drive your teenager around, a lot, to their friend Jacob's house, their other friend Jake's house, to James's, to Jaden's, to Jalen's, to...
Mom? This is Jake's house, not Jacob's.
Now with an Uber teen account, your teen can request a ride under your supervision. They'll ride with a highly rated driver, and with live trip tracking, you'll follow along the whole ride to their friends' houses that all sound the same. Add your teen to your Uber account today. See app for details.
Bye, Mom.
This episode is brought to you by Jira. Ever wonder how those big marketing campaigns that make headlines get delivered on time? It all starts with Jira, the only project management tool you need to plan and track work across any team. Every step of that campaign is organised in one place, from launching the campaign all the way back to designing ads and writing creative briefs. Get started on your next big marketing campaign idea today in Jira.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply. USAA.
Hello, I'm your host, Les Bubka. Welcome to Anxious Black Belt, a podcast that focuses on karate, mental health, and everything in between. If you enjoy our content and would like to support us, best way to do that is to listen to another episode, share it with your friends, and leave us a review. All this stuff helps the mysterious algorithm to introduce our podcast to new audience. Thank you for joining me, and let's listen to the episode. Hello, in this episode I've got the pleasure to talking to Che Jagger from a Goju Karate Centre in South Africa. My apologies, we got some strange echo on Che's side. I'm too stupid to find a way to remove it, so you have to bear with it, but the conversation is well worth listening and getting used to it, and in time it kind of fades out and you forget about it, but it's well worth the listening to the conversation. Long time overdue. Thank you for coming on. For some time I'm following your channel, see your growth. Welcome to the show, Che. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me, Sensei Les. I think it's a mirrored relationship. We've been watching Les Bubka karate and applied karate and karate for mental health extensively for a while. And I think everything came to a certain point during COVID because we were kind of stuck in-house and weren't able to do much. And suddenly YouTube became our best friend other than Zoom.
Yeah, it is nice that's one nice aspect of the COVID, that we met so many different martial artists doing very similar things, and we can interact and connect and be able to chat.
I think it's important. I think that, as a kid who grew up in South Africa, many of the martial arts groups don't talk. Karate guys have an inherent animosity to Kung Fu and to everybody else. And even in karate, my friends today who are from JKA, and I'm a Goju guy, nobody spoke because, the one is right and the other one isn't. And I think the more we started to find ourselves being a little bit fragile and having to put ourselves out there, the more we started to realize we're all in the same boat. And maybe it's time to start talking and starting to training and sharing ideas and seeing where we can go and how we can move forward.
Yeah, I think that was all over the world, because I remember being back in Poland, we had the same animosity. UK is a little bit different because people don't associate so much with the styles, but more with the teacher. So It's kind of more open, and maybe just in the circles that I am, because actually we had a conversation yesterday with the guys. They said, we would love to come, but we cannot be on the pictures and stuff like that because our teachers wouldn't like it and our organization wouldn't like it. So it's just funny games.
Yeah, I made a live stream in Okinawa on the first day I arrived, and I got shut down.
Oh wow!
I got shut down by my senior, and they said to me, sorry, you're there to grade. There's no live streaming. There's no nothing. You could do your touristy bit if you want, but we really, we don't want anything, you've got to be dedicated and loyal and everything else. So I think there's a certain value to loyalty. But I think that sometimes people take it too far, and everybody thinks, that we have to be more Japanese than the Japanese. And personally, I think there are problems with this. I wasn't raised Japanese. I was raised to question. I'm named after Che Guevara. I'm a rebel at heart. From the moment I was baptized or christened, I'm essentially a rebel. And you can't always do the right thing all the time in terms of loyalty if your situation, your environment doesn't allow for it. And sometimes you have to do the right thing for growth. And sometimes those two things aren't the same. And that's really, really hard, I think, for some people to actually grapple with, because they struggle mentally to separate the two ideas.
Yeah, I think different people have a different look on the loyalty. So for me, there's kind of two-way system, right? I cannot expect my students to be loyal to me if I'm not loyal to them. And part of that loyalty is making sure that they've got as much exposure to martial arts as they can, because they might find something better than I do, and why should I keep them in and don't allow them to progress if that's what they're looking for, if that makes sense?
Oh, 100%. We've seen it for years or decades in South Africa, where you dare not even talk about doing a different martial art. Your sensei would say to you, what, you want to do judo? Why? Meantime, if you did good karate and you did good judo and you were in the dojo Monday and Wednesday for karate and Tuesday and Thursday for judo with a different sensei, you were going to become a much better martial artist overall.
Yeah.
But there's this idea that the dojo ought to be a one-stop shop, and everything in the dojo is the be-all and end-all. And, unfortunately, we've been found wanting. And, we've got to give a little bit of credit to the guys who do MMA and the guys who have only loyalty to the success of their pugilistic art because they're great fighters, to actually call us out and say, hold on, some of the stuff you guys are doing doesn't make any sense. And now all of a sudden we're going, hold on, it's back to the drawing board for us. And like you say, if you've got a two-way loyalty with your students, then you've got to make sure that you're able to give them something that's concrete and legit and real. And it's not something that's just wishy-washy, that comes out of a lucky packet, as one of my teachers would say. It's got to be something, tangibly good, that they can reciprocate their loyalty with you. I have a youngster who trains 4 times a week with my friend down the road. He does fitness and he does jiu-jitsu with a friend of mine, Rodney Swanepoel. And he's in the dojo 3 to 4 times a week with me, just doing karate. And there are no problems. And he's slowly, because he's doing martial art basically 8 times a week, he's lifting and his classmates the gap's just growing. But it's because he's got a good job, he's got a fair amount of money, he has no responsibilities, and he's able to train all the time. And so our only concern is making sure that he doesn't burn himself out.
Like lucky person.
Yeah, he's a lucky guy, a lucky boy.
When the kids coming into play and responsibilities and stuff, it's getting a bit harder. We had that conversation again yesterday that, would be nice if people train more, but not everybody can because work commitments. I'm lucky if some of my guys turn up once a week because their job doesn't allow them. So, but yeah, you can see the progression. I see the difference. I started BJJ not long ago, and I can do it only once a week. And those guys who started with me and doing it 3 times a week, I can see how much they leaving me behind with their skills and application. So you put the work, you get the results, right?
100%. And unfortunately, there's only 24 hours in a day, and you only have 100% energy to steal from another friend of mine, Morio, who's got a dojo down the road. Always used to say to me, I don't know how you do it. You've only got 100% energy. But at that point, he was married and had a child. I was still kind of single, no children. I could do a fair amount of stuff. But I didn't have a dojo that ran 7 classes a day. I only had a dojo that ran 3 classes a day or 4 classes a day. I had so much more time at my disposal. And that allowed me to pursue other things to a higher level. And, the rest is, as I say, is history. And it changes. That sense of loyalty and responsibility. I remember as a child growing up, we had Sensei Teruo Chinen come to our dojo quite a lot. And on one of the trips, he spoke about priorities. And he was like, what are your priorities? What comes first? What comes second? Where is karate on your priority list? And, everybody wanted to impress the Japanese sensei, Okinawan sensei. Sensei, karate is up there. It's number 1 or it's number 2. And he said, it can't be. We were like, Sensei, it was like family, school, other things. Maybe karate is number 4. And we Sensei, where's karate for you? So, karate is like number 2. I said, why, Sensei? He says, well, it's my job.
Yeah.
What I do for a living, it's number 2. So I think understanding that priority scale changes as your life changes is important. I think a lot of people miss that. They expect the karate sensei to be living in the dojo. I remember somebody saying something once. You can't take a karate person seriously who is rich. You can't take a karate person seriously if they've got nice things and that. They're expected to be living an incredibly monk-like, poor life, living in the dojo permanently, and it's so far from the truth.
Yeah, and teaching for free, because if you don't teach for free, you're just the money-grabbing person. You don't really committed to the art, and it's funny how that originated and was everywhere. We had the same thing in Poland. Or if you love karate and you're really good karate, you shouldn't make money on it. And just like, if I've got money, I can train more, I can do a better service. That's normal for every job, except karate. It's like, no, you need to be poor and doing, everything on the just students on the pedestal and teach.
I think people don't understand the history. Personally, I think they look and they go, Chojun Miyagi, the founder of Goju Ryu Karate, only did karate and that. But he was a trust fund baby, essentially. He had inherited this shipping, import, export business from an uncle. And they realized that he was bad at doing admin. So they said to him, you just do karate and we'll look after the business. And he didn't have to worry about stuff. It paid for him to travel. It paid for him to train. He could live the ideal dream. And I think most of those early pioneers had that kind of situation, or they had a patron, somebody who literally paid them to study martial arts. And those days are gone, and equipment needs to be bought, and the lights need to be paid, and the bathroom needs toilet paper, and it needs a block of soap so you can wash your hands afterwards. And if you're living for poor, poverty kind of karate, then your dojo very soon starts to smell really bad because nobody's cleaning it properly with decent products to make sure that we don't get sick or anything like that. So that theory needs to be thrown out with the bath water, and because that's a sick baby as such, as an idea.
Yeah, but it took me a long time and a lot of conversation with people who like Ian Abernathy and Christian Vedevard to get it out of my head that it is okay to charge people money and a good money for a service you provide if it's a good service. So it took me a lot of time to get rid of that mentality. Oh no, I'm a money grabbing person. Money are bad. But I think that's kind of you said you're Christian, so I think you can relate to that. I'm a Catholic, not by choice but by birth, And we always been told that, the money, being rich is a bad thing. The money is a cause of all evil and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of deeper engraved in our brains that, being rich is not such a great thing. Not that I'm
Yeah,
rich, by the way.
I had a good friend of mine give me something on marketing and martial arts, and their sensei was one of the guys who was like, I do karate for a business and it's about money, and he's not afraid to charge, and he offered pretty decent service on everything and else. And one of the things that was on that page that I really, really liked was this idea that he is charitable, but he is not a charity.
Yeah.
And so the dojo and the sensei have got charitable facets to them. We will raise a certain amount of money in the year, and we will take it to the local feeding scheme. We'll take it to the local orphanage, to the local guys who are trying to make a difference in our community. We will collect the old gis and we will send it to places where their students don't have gis, so that this is charitable action. And we're doing this on a regular basis. And from time to time, a student comes in and they don't have money, but the intention and their passion is there. And we say, all right, we'll pay for your fees. We'll cover your fees and this and that. What we want you to cover, if you can, you have to pay an affiliation, a registration. You try and raise the money for that. And you have to do that once a year, and it's for a 12-month period. And, then they're at least contributing something, but it's not 100%. Everything is for free. Because unfortunately, life is like that. There's nothing that is 100% for free anywhere. And if it is free, then you're the product.
Yeah.
It
leads nicely to one of the questions I wanted to ask you. So saying that about, we need to pay stuff, and I explaining to my son, because he's very, very charitable person. He would give everything to people. And I said, you need to be first strong yourself and have the foundation and everything secure, so you're healthy, you've got money for a thing, then you can help others. If you cannot help yourself, you are not able to help the others. So our home motto is strong and caring, right? So you're strong mentally and physically, and you're caring, because if you're strong and healthy and stuff, you can help other people. How would you, that's our set of basic rules that the kids got understanding what we're about, and the dojo is the same. How would you describe your set of rules or key principles in a least amount of words? So I've got strong and caring. How would you be kind of, what's the word for it? Kind of not shortening, but condense into one sentence your principles in a dojo and a home, if that makes sense.
That's hard for me because I'm not the good wordsmith. Zoe is. But generally, I think it's to try and find the balance between being hard and soft. And that ties in with the fact that I am a Goju practitioner. When am I hard, and when am I soft? When am I strict on certain things? And when am I flexing and flexible around an idea that is maybe not something that I'm comfortable with, but I need to give it time and that to run. So I try and do that a little bit more than anything else. And I find it incredibly hard to do, to be quite honest. There are days that I want to come down on my firstborn son like a ton of bricks, because he is mischievous and naughty, and he's everything I was. Mm-hmm. And he has the luxury of being in a situation where everything is a little bit easier in terms of how he gets stuff. And it's now trying to teach him to kind of not like be as he just takes. He doesn't understand that somebody else paid for it or somebody else contributed. The analogy I have in the dojo a lot of the time is you can't bend a sapling too quickly. You can move a sapling tree. You can shape it to whatever you want it. But if it's a fully grown, well-established tree, then it's no longer, bendable and pliable. Then it becomes like cut and hack and chop off sections. So it's easier to shape from young. And so in my dojo philosophy, we work with younger children a lot, and it's to try and change them. And then with the adults, sometimes I'm more hard, and that hard is like, listen, I don't like this part of what you're doing. I think you need to stop doing this, and you need to move on with that. You need to cut certain things out. And so I think people sometimes don't like see that, but that I think is the way we are. Unfortunately, I'm also a kid who's got, as a kid, before it was ADD or ADHD or whatever, I'm very much a case study of a kid who's neurodivergent. And I have no filters. So sometimes I speak without thinking. That's been my hardest lesson over the last 35, 40 years, is to actually take time, think things through before I kind of piece together an answer, before I blurt out something that really upsets somebody else.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. Seeing my behaviors in my son drives me nuts. Funny how is that, isn't it? Right? Why are you doing this? I know why you're doing this, but I don't want you to do this. And saying things without filter is quite funny, because when I moved to UK, Polish culture is slightly different, so we kind of very upfront and saying what we think, and in UK it's not so much. So my wife was like, no, you need to rephrase that, because this is very upsetting to people and it's very rude. What do you mean? And just say what I think. And so after 17 years here, I'm better at it now. I try to kind of filter things, just like you said.
I remember the first time I met guys who came out of Eastern Europe, and they were also very much, they just blurted out whatever they thought, and we were like, hey, that's a little bit, but like you say, it's the culture. There's no time. You can't afford to waste time making things sound delicate and phrasing it. We've only got a limited amount of time. We've got a problem. We need to solve it, and that's it. And having grown up in I'm raised. I'm a very non-practicing kind of Catholic, but I was raised in a Catholic school tradition, and we had a lot of boys from all over, and we had a chunk of Eastern European boys who grew up, and you knew that those aunties and uncles, when you visited at their house, if that auntie said no, it meant no. Because some of those old German and Eastern European kids who you grew up with, if you visited their house, if their mom or their dad said no, the next time it was, you're not welcome, or somebody gave you a good walloping because that wasn't allowed.
Yeah, it's a little bit different upbringing. So how did you get into the karate in the first place?
I was bullied as a child, and I really struggled with my personal confidence. So nobody knew that my playing out was a direct result of me seeking attention. I'm the last born. So my father had been married first, had 4 children from his first marriage, and he had an adopted child as well. And I came along, so I was proverbially number 6. And then my mom's sisters, 2 girls, would often spend most of their holidays. So by the time we had a family meal, let's say typically in like a vacation time, there would be about 8 kids ranging from my age to 16 years older than me, with my oldest brother. And so it was a very busy household, and I was the last born, so nobody knew why I was acting out. It was like, well, clearly he's not getting enough attention or whatever. When I got to school, I suddenly found that I was being picked on by some of the other children, where I had a natural little bit of, let's call it, energy in the kindergarten or the creche. When I got to school, it was kind of, I was constantly being put in the corner because I was getting out of hand, and the teachers were kind of trying to shape me into a better citizen. And then I was classified as the naughty kid, and then the other kids would pick on me, and then it would be all sorts of problems, and I was being bullied. So lucky for me at school was a dojo. And there were some other kids who were training, and we would all go up to the school hall. They had these internal shutters that slid closed, and one of the boys in our class would always make sure one of the shutters was a little bit open, so we could all sit there and peep through the shutter and see what was going on while the sensei was teaching. And so that was my first introduction to karate. And then we would play karate. We'd see them do uke, and we would stand outside and throw our arms in random positions like they were doing. And we were basically mimicking. And by the time I got to my end of my second year of primary school, I was allowed to go into the dojo, and I joined the dojo. And my first class was terrible. I walked in with my father, who was a very big, burly kind of man for me, and had a presence. And he walked into the dojo, and the sensei had as much of a presence, and he was loud. And Paul Andre was loud. His voice filled that entire school hall. And I just got so scared. I was crying and everything. It was like really traumatic at the time. And my father just looked, and he was like, "Crybabies don't do karate," and dragged me out. Said to me, "I'm so disappointed in you." My father was a tradesman, so he put me in the back of the truck with all the tools. Said, "Big boys don't ride in the front of the car with Dad." And that was it. And about 2 weeks later, I went back, and when I got to the dojo the second time, Paul Andre came outside and kind of went down on his haunches and said, "All right, calm down. We're going to go into the dojo together this time. Dad's not coming in with you. Dad, go sit in your truck. Fetch him in an hour's time. We're going to give this another shot." And entered quietly and explained that when we count, we're loud. And when we're in the dojo, we've got to have this loud energy, and it's okay to be loud. And about 3 minutes later, I was into it in a big way. I stopped karate for 2 years when my sensei left South Africa, because I felt disappointed and broken because I had such an affinity for him. I call Paul Andre one of my fathers. You know, he was my father in karate for a long, long time. And, you know, in having a father who was this very big energy, and then having a sensei who from time to time would sit with me and talk with me, was something totally different. And it allowed me to find my happy ground and to start to find the confidence to not be a victim. So started karate because I was bullied, and kind of never left.
Cool. And you become uchideshi, right? If I read correctly on your website.
So I essentially was a deshi in the dojo. I helped my sensei a lot. So by the time the second sensei came and took over, I trained for a year or two after the changeover between senseis. And then I kind of stepped back and I said, I need time out. I was very engrossed in karate, and I had no social skills. I had changed school. I had gone from a boys only school to a co-ed school. And so I needed to kind of find my way around things. I was like 14, 15, you know, fanatical. And so I went out of the dojo for 2 years. And when I returned, second sensei in the dojo, Sensei Aubrey Pieterse, was in charge. And I decided I need to catch up my 2 years. So I'll train every class. So I ended up at the dojo helping with every class. And that ran for about 6 or 7 years until Sensei eventually said, listen, I'm leaving the dojo. You're the number one student. Now you take over. And so I was in no form or way living like a dechi in the full contact Koikishin, where you live in the dojo, you eat, sleep, breathe karate. Not in that sense, but I was at university. I did a couple of years at university, got some qualifications. I started working, but I would literally be at the dojo for every class and help out or even teach. And then later on, the teaching rolled over as Sensei's other business was getting better. he was going, listen, I can't make classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the next 3 months. You need to teach all the classes. And I would go in and teach all the classes. So I call that my deshi ship, or my dechi life. And I was, at that point in time, I learned how to be uke to both my dojo sensei plus, the other senseis who would do seminars. They tend to like me. I was reasonably light, reasonably physical. So everything made them look good. And, they could throw me around because I was pretty tough. So I spent a lot of time getting airtime, frequent flyer miles, because I was up in the air so much, being thrown. And I didn't mind falling hard. So the surface never mattered. So if we did demos and there was hard surface, it didn't matter. I inevitably would handle most surfaces other than proper tar and stones and stuff. So
cool. So you said that you've been struggling with the transition between the schools, from the boys' schools to girls' schools. How did the karate impacted your mental health and abilities? Do you think it would be worse if you didn't have a karate in the background, or it made no difference, or how would you feel about that?
I mentioned that I was somewhat fanatical, and that was the problem. Okay. It took me a long time to adjust. Most of the other kids who were at school with me, when they went from the boys' school and went into co-ed schools, there was no problem. But there was an attitude in our dojo that girls make you slow, and that if you indulge the girls, then you're going to become weak at karate.
All right.
And so the girls became the enemy. And so by the time I started realizing, hold on, I really liked that. I didn't have the ability to communicate with girls. I'd never been shown it, never been taught it. And what I knew, I'd learned from TV, which is not the best resource to use, to be quite honest. And then obviously whatever your friends had been telling you, and obviously having been kind of raised in an all-boys Catholic school, those boys are, if parents ask me, what's it like growing up? It's like you learn to be a pig. And you're not really, really good at dealing with the opposite gender. So karate kept me from being beaten up a lot, because I stood on a lot of people's toes. I said rude things, and some people would want to call me out and meet me behind the bicycle sheds. And the savvy of karate was, don't get beat up, just run away. And so I would get told, listen, first break, meet us behind the bicycle sheds, and I would go to the library. And second break, meet us over here. But I thought you said those. And so I would duck and dive. And then at the end of the day, they would wait for me at the main gate to exit school, knowing that I would have to go that way home. And I would go that way and walk 4 blocks around the school and up. And that really kept me kind of ticking. I also kind of found a different niche during that time. So it allowed me to kind of pull myself away from the schooling system. So I kind of hid at school. I went there and I kind of realized I needed to work academically and try and get good marks. Although I was rather lazy, I thought it would just happen, osmosis. But I spent a lot of time doing things and I started to make friends with people who did similar things. So people who climbed mountains, enjoyed the outdoors, that kind of environment. And that was a much better, much healthier environment to be in. But karate was always lingering in the background. So my karate has made me mentally strong in ways that most people don't understand. And it's typically, a sensei does a class and you're doing stepping up and down and up and down, and it's one technique for 1 hour, up and down, and that creates mental strength. And about 10 minutes into that exercise, your brain starts talking to you. What the heck's going on? Why is sensei doing this, etc. Do I slack off? Do I try pace myself? Will I carry on? Or do I just keep pushing harder and harder and harder until I'm totally spent? And that kind of mental strength, kind of got restructured when I was climbing and hiking in the mountains, because I would put on my bag and I'd be, it's so heavy, but I've got to get through this. And I would just keep on going. And I think that becomes the analogy for the way I approach life afterwards. It doesn't matter how heavy the load is on your back, you've got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And that's a mental strength, not a physical strength. For sure. And it ties in with having a family background like I have. It ties in with a dad who kind of often would neglect his need to be emotional by being totally physical. So the support and the praise is for physical things. It's not often emotional and things like that. So in hindsight, in my early 40s, I started to put together, hold on, maybe this hard upbringing I've had has created something that I don't want to replicate one day when I have children. And so maybe I'm swung like a pendulum to the opposite end of the spectrum with my children, and maybe even my students, where I'm not as hard as I was when I was in my 30s, whereas I'm approaching 50. So, but I do think we need to find some kind of mental strength.
Cool. Yeah. I think that karate and all the physical sports, even the gym and stuff, helps you to build that mental strength, because if you don't put the work and you don't put that foot forward, then you're gonna fall behind and just quit, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And that translates to the life. I was reading that you've been and you mentioned that you've been in Okinawa. How was that experience for you, and why this particular, why Kenkyukai, not the other branches of Goju?
Okay. No, firstly, I love Okinawa. There are a few places in the world where when I get there, I can literally relax, mentally just relax. And the sense is, in South Africa, we don't realize it, but we're constantly security orientated. Everybody's got big dogs and alarm system and everything else. When you get to Okinawa, there is so much honesty. Generally, crime is virtually unheard of. So literally, when I get off the plane, I relax and I go, the only thing I can do wrong here is offend somebody by being rude. So I can relax. The next thing is, obviously, when I get to Okinawa, most of the time I don't travel with students below me. I travel with peer group, and it means that I can be a student again. So when I get to the dojo, I can just train and immerse myself. And so I really enjoy it. It's the best working holiday I ever have. And when I do that, I literally, as my friend Morio says, we're basically going there to refill our cup. The other organizations, where do I fit in? I have, unfortunately for the people who are very loyal, I have a very, very disloyal trait running through my history. And some of that is because of my senseis, and some of that is because of decisions that I've made. But I grew up in the Miyazato line of karate. And so that started with the IOGKF and basically Morio Higaonna Sensei, Teruo Chinen Sensei, James Rousseau, and then my sensei was in that structure. So it wasn't a choice. I liked the dojo. I loved my sensei, and so that was the karate we did. In about 87, 88, Sensei Teruo Chinen left, and my sensei was one of the first guys internationally to leave and to move from IOGKF to Jundokan International. And so we moved with Sensei Chinen. Had a fantastic upbringing and life with Sensei Chinen, but all the time we were hearing about his sensei, Miyazato Sensei, and the Jundokan in Okinawa. Over the years, things happened, and we kind of ended up leaving our sensei our second sensei in the dojo and Sensei Chinen, and having to find a home. We tried to fit in at a few places. One particular place was with Sensei Ronnie Kluger, who runs Karate Do International, Renmei.
I know
and
Ronnie.
He's a fantastic karate man. And we got an introduction to Jundokan. And so we got in and we were there. And unfortunately, things didn't work out for us. It wasn't a great fit. It was a fit, but it wasn't a great fit.
Mm-hmm.
And myself and Sensei Morio eventually got to a point where things were not working out the way we were hoping for, and things were deteriorating. So we left Sensei Ronnie, and unfortunately, the Judokan were not interested in keeping us on a separate stream. Mm-hmm. And so we had to find a new home, and we ended up in the OGKK, which is a parallel stream for all intents purposes. Mm-hmm. You know, it traces its roots back. It's the same routing. So we kind of got onto that, and we're lucky now that our senseis, our local big chief senseis, have one of the first things they worked towards very actively was to make sure that we were given Shibo so that we could be autonomous. Mm-hmm. And then when we get up to nonsense, we've just got to answer for our nonsense. Mm-hmm. And that was very important for us. So when we got that, we were like, okay, this will work a little bit better. And now we're just trying to iron out our wrinkles per se, because obviously we've come with a couple of administrative wrinkles that are a little different and a few quirks here or there. And then obviously the rest is kind of like how we are as individuals. So it's kind of a personal thing.
Sure. Well, I'm happy that it works for you. Yeah, I met Ronnie Kluger in UK, 2007, 8. Yeah. Really nice guy, really nice conversation with him. He's a very good friend from my Aikido, Roger Pine. And they working together quite a lot. So it was really nice to meet him and see his Krav Maga stuff as well. All around really nice guy. Actually, I might grab him for a podcast as well now. Thank you for the idea. Because he kind of disappeared from the picture. You know, you're focusing on some stuff and you're forgetting your wider circle of friends. And I really enjoyed conversation with him. So thank you very much.
Hey, it's a pleasure. I really do. You know, when it comes to no nonsense kind of applied karate, Sensei Ronnie is basically very good at that. Take a handful of bunkai and just, it has to work. And you'd often say, but what if this, what if that? You know, and that sick Israeli accent coming out, and his seniors were also the same thing. There we go. Sorry about that. My battery says I've got about 20% left. And he would challenge us to come up with more realistic and considering our own self-defense a lot more. So it's fantastic in that regard. A fantastic teacher.
Cool. I wanted to ask you, how did you manage to be so successful on the YouTube? Because we're kind of doing parallel, and I'm still on 5,000, and you guys are just went away with the how much you've got now? 25, 30,000?
I don't know. I think it's 40,000 subscribers.
Yeah, well done.
42,000. I don't know how. I honestly don't. But what I do know about what I tried to do was, when I started, I wanted to put out information that would allow the information not to be lost. Mm-hmm. So I took from every person I'd ever seen or heard of a bunkai or of a way of interpreting, or the hand is this way or that way. How am I going to show that so that it appeals to the biggest audience? Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of where we kind of started, and it kind of snowballed. I really don't believe in this way is the only way and this is the right way. I think a lot of the in-house fighting within various schools of karate, or in karate in general, is because everybody's trying to prove that their way is the best, where they should be going, hold on, this way works better if you're 5'2", and this way works better when you're 7'4". And this works better if you're flexible, and this works better if you're fast. And it's just, you know, what do you like? Some people like proximity and some people don't like proximity. So being able to try and give all that information out to everybody was the idea of trying to appeal to the largest audiences out there. And in particular, Goju Ryu audience, And then I had these guys I was watching, you know, doing applied karate. Les Booker, Ian Abernathy, the friend of mine, Miguel Harker, constantly giving me different guys to look at, sending me stuff and saying, hey, have you seen these guys in the States doing this? And what do you think about that? And then seeing seniors doing stuff and going, I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like that model. So trying to stream around what I liked and what I didn't like. And then obviously Zoe is fantastic at the technology and everything else. So like, yeah, that's it.
It's great to see your success. It really makes me happy and envious. I won't be lying. I'm envious as well that, you know, I'm putting effort and nothing happening by you guys just going like, oh, what? Wait for me. But yeah, it's great to see.
I think a lot of people don't see the effort that goes in on Zoe's side. I don't think people appreciate I will come into the dojo, set up a camera, Brian will be with me, and we'll say, all right, let's do this. And we film one take, literally from start to finish, one take, and go for it. And try and do it that well in the first take that every now and then there's a little bit of a stumble and a fall, but you know, those goofs are few and far between. But the real success, I think, comes in with the way that Zoe edits and her OCD drive to make sure the sound is right. I can't tell the difference if the sound is good or bad, to be quite honest, unless it's like watching a 1980s movie that has been taped over about 5 times, you know. And then I can't see a difference in lighting personally. I'm like, well, the lighting looks okay, everything looks clean. She sees it in shades, and so she makes that big difference.
Well, it's obviously working. I might employ her then.
There's nothing wrong. I'm sure she wouldn't mind working for pounds sterling. You know, 1 pound is worth about 21 rand, which is fantastic for us. But yeah, that's another story. Our economy.
Yeah. I read as well that we've got something in common as well outside of the karate realms, and it kind of came to me in last 5 years. Enjoying gardening. Did you always enjoy gardening, or this is the age thing? Because I'm laughing to my wife that I'm drinking green tea now, enjoying gardening, so I just need a Volvo now because kind of Volvo is associated with all the drivers in UK.
No, look, there's nothing wrong with the Volvo, man. They're great cars. If I could afford one, I would definitely have one. It's a fantastic car. The gardening started in my childhood.
All right.
So my mom went to work a couple of months after I was born, and I was effectively raised by my granny. And for all intents and purposes, the way I understand my granny on my mom's side was that she was predominantly Greek ancestry. She was one of these kind of hardy ladies who would do it all herself. So we had vegetable garden at home, and she kept me entertained as a little toddler, helping her in the garden. And so I found great joy as a little child, pulling out carrots and things, and you know, putting things in my mouth that I shouldn't have, finding a worm and going, oh, you bad worm, you eating my carrots, and then I would eat the worm, that kind of crazy stuff. But I really do think that gardening is something really, really special. There's something amazing to see when a garden changes and it comes into bloom, when the trees come out and everything comes together. And that kind of got reinforced by visiting Sensei Teruo Chinen at his home in Spokane and seeing this beautiful garden that he spent hours and hours and hours and hours cultivating. And I think that reinforced it. So it's something that's from my childhood that's been reinforced over time, and just an appreciation for nature. I love being outside. I really struggled when I was a school teacher in the classroom. Sometimes they would give me, I'd have an admin period, and I would open my windows, and I had a balcony that was basically a concrete serviceman's walkway on the third floor of the building, and I would open up and I'd go sit on that little balcony and look off into the mountains in the distance. And the headmaster called me one day and said, when you're sitting on there, are you procrastinating whether or not you're going to jump? And I said to him, no, I'm looking at the mountains. He looked at me and he was like, are you okay in your head? And I was like, he's like, you could see them. I was like, I like the freedom. I like the sun. I like the warmth. So.
Cool. Yeah, I do like as well. I like, we make sure that at least once a week we're going with the kids to a National Trust park, so we can go between the trees and stuff, so the kids exploring as well. It's something very calming and helpful to be around the vegetation and animals and stuff like that. And same in home, we've got now vegetable patches, bonsai trees and everything, and my kids enjoy working on them. It's something really calming in that.
I think it's something that every child needs to learn, and it also helps them appreciate the quality of food that they get on their dinner plate every night. So having an agrarian type grandmother who wouldn't throw anything away that wasn't able to be used. Like if we kept chickens at home, we ate chicken, we ate everything other than the feathers. You know, everything on that chicken got used. There was hardly any wastage. And it was literally the kind of upbringing that I had as a child. And I think it's important because today children think that milk comes from a plastic bottle from the supermarket. They don't realize it comes from a cow. And, you know, you feed the cow well, you get good milk, makes good cheese, and it gives you good food. And when you have good food and you have good company, then, you know, you can have a nice time.
Yeah.
And that it shouldn't be taken for granted because it might not be like that forever.
What are the future plans for your dojo?
Just keep ticking, keep churning, keep ticking, keep going. You know, everybody's got lots of plans. And in my case, I've got 1,000,001 plans in my head, but they all revolve around me having 1,000,001 rands, which is our currency, to be able to make these things happen. But essentially, just keep ticking, try and make a difference, try and get a few more black belts every year, try and keep the retention high in our dojo, try and make a difference to people, and then slowly build from there. You know, it's in a couple of years' time, there's the possibility of another grading and upgrade. But, you know, try and get to the point where the students and everybody in the dojo knows how to do everything, and that the YouTube channel has caught as much of my information and encapsulated it so that the ideas of my teachers do not get lost. I'm never going to write a book, so YouTube's going to be the storage vessel. And
why not? Why not writing a book?
I hate writing.
All right, fair enough.
Zoe's the wordsmith. I like doing karate. And then, at some point, try and get to the point where I can maybe change how my students do karate in a way and take them to the mountains and things like that so they can have some alternative experiences. Right now, everybody's like kind of in South Africa is on tight budgets. So we're kind of going, all right, all these things have to go on the back burner. Let's just try and keep the lights on, keep people in the dojo and keep everybody happy without making it too expensive. The people who are able to do everything because they've got lots of money, they're lucky. But we're not teaching people in that kind of socioeconomic class only. We're teaching people, a couple are in that class, but the majority are below that. So, and then give them that outdoor experience.
I think all over the world, I can see it in UK, people just cutting down every activity on the not needed side. So, you know, karate first drop off. We get quite a few students drop out, and I speak with other teachers, and the parents pulling the kids out because they just not afford it. It's gonna be a rough few years, I think.
Look, and if we look at how students leave, one of the biggest reasons we have student attrition right now is lack of time. People are being loaded more and more, and what we're finding is that people are having to work for longer to earn the same. And so they've got money, but they don't have time. And you can have one or the other. To have two, you're essentially the luckiest person on the planet. I have students who stop karate now because their scholastic work is so demanding. They can't keep up with trying to do 2 classes a week. And then they start dropping out. We encourage them to try and keep in touch with the dojo, do a class here or a class there. But a lot of the time when they get to that final year of high school, it's like, well, we're done. And it's sad. I was there myself, so I had stopped karate in the 2-year window I was away. It was in that period. So the hope is that they return to the dojo, and the happiest days of my day, or the happiest time in my day, is when one of those old students walks back in with their little 5 or 6-year-old and go, "Sensei, we've come back. Kids are coming to do karate, and then we're going to see how my time looks. I'd like them to do about a year. Then I'm going to come back and train as well." And then when that happens, then it's like, yes.
Share your social links and everything where people can find you before your battery is going to die.
Okay. So essentially they can find us on the Goju Ryu Karate Centre on YouTube. That's obviously our number one place where we're active. Sensei Zoe will probably send you the other ones that you can plug in somewhere using the AI, but I know we have a Instagram and I know we have Facebook. I personally, I am only on YouTube as a pleb who watches old videos. That's where I exist. But our dojo as such is Goju Ryu Karate Centre, and everybody can find us on YouTube. That's where we're the most active.
Cool, and there's tons of really good stuff from Che and Zoe, and you should go and watch it and subscribe to theirs and to mine, so I don't get left behind too much. Thank you very much, Che.
It is a pleasure. Thank you very much for doing podcasts and taking time. And that's I hope that you've had a good summer, because the weather I see is turning in Europe. So hopefully you guys don't get washed away. I hope your family. Have you still got family in Poland where there's flooding?
Yes, I do, but luckily the Krakow is not flooded, so I keep checking with my mom, and she said it's all right. But other parts are really, really badly affected. So
it's crazy weather, crazy weather. All right, lovely chatting, Liz. Thank you very much.
Bye. Well done for listening to all of it. You are a superhero. Thank you very much for your support, and if you could leave us that review on a podcast platform, that would be amazing. I appreciate your time, appreciate your support, and I wish you all the best until the next one.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.